Welcome to our €23,000 Italian lake house.
This isn't just a creative project. This is our only home. It's a race against the cold, and we are running out of time. Finishing before winter comes is a necessity. We thought we were buying a house. We bought a challenge. We've run out of budget, so now we're doing what we can with what we have. I hope we haven't bitten off more than we can chew. Hi, Kristina here. This renovation isn't just a creative project for us. This is our only and primary house. We're trying to finish this house before next winter so we can actually move in and live inside. We've reached the end of our budget, so from this point on, we're doing what we can with what we have. I hope we haven't bitten off more than we can chew, because missing that winter deadline would mean having to spend another brutal winter in my sister-in-law's apartment with no heating system and only an outhouse for a bathroom. That's why this journey and the people following it really matter. If you enjoy our story, following us here on YouTube genuinely helps us keep going. So people always ask us, how did we end up in this tiny little village of 200 people in the north of Italy? Especially me being from Chicago, my husband being from London. It seems like an odd choice. And the story starts a long time ago. I went to university in Chicago. I was raised in the suburbs, and then I moved to the city for college. I ended up staying after I graduated, and I was working in bars. I was bartending because I graduated into the 2008 financial crisis. So a lot of us in my graduating class really struggled to find work.
Stock market is now down 21%.
Because we're now down 43%.
What in the world is happening on Wall Street?
Luckily, I had been working bartending for a bit, and I was able to just keep doing that, and the money was fine. And I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It's something I'd happily go back to. But I did that until I was 27, and I've always loved travel, and I've always known that I wanted to see the world and spend not just a week's vacation here, a week's vacation there, but really spend a lot of time in other countries learning about other places. Knowing that I wasn't gonna go into a corporate job, especially at this time, I was trying to find other avenues to do that. And I ended up one night, one of the girls who worked at the bar next to mine came over to our bar, and we were talking, and she had just gotten back from Vietnam teaching English. And she really recommended it to me. And I looked into it, and it was the only place I could teach that had a warm climate and where I could make my student loan payments. I speak Spanish, so I really had wanted to go to Central America, but unfortunately the salaries there kind of just pay you enough to get by. You're not gonna earn anything extra on top of that if you need to pay any student loan debt back home. So South Korea was an option, but South Korea, I hear the work-life balance isn't very good, that teachers there work really long hours. So Vietnam was this kind of the only thing that really appealed to me. And doing that, teaching English abroad, would allow me to spend extended amounts of time overseas. And, I could I was imagining I could pop around to Cambodia and Thailand, and then maybe after that I could teach English somewhere in Europe, and I could pop around Europe. And so that's the decision I made. In January of 2013, I just turned 27, and I got on a one-way flight to Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. I didn't know anyone there. I'd never been there before, but I had found a job online, and they organized everything, like my visa, picking me up from the airport, and it was a massive culture shock. For anyone who's been to a city like that in Southeast Asia, a really, really populous city, a really busy city, it's so different from what you know, and it's just completely overwhelming, but in a really cool, really beautiful way. I started teaching English there. I made friends with loads of the other teachers, popped right into a really cool social circle, was having a great time. You don't make great money. I'm an average teacher, at least in 2013, 2014, a teacher's earning about $1,200 a month. And that is enough to live very well in Vietnam, but it is not enough to save really a lot, or for someone like me, who's got student loans back home, I was spending, half my salary on my student loans and then living very frugally on the other half, but absolutely loving life. The people of Vietnam are so warm and so kind, and there's just so much life. When you're out on the streets, there's so many people in the streets. There's, food stalls and kids playing, and it's a really energizing place to be. And I would love to go back and spend more time there. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience. But, you know, when you want to fly home to Chicago, you're saving all year to pay for that ticket. So it was financially a little bit difficult. One of my concerns about moving to Vietnam was I didn't really know anything about Vietnam. My only awareness of Vietnam was the Vietnam War, in which, you know, we were not the good guys. And I kind of was a bit nervous of how the Vietnamese people would perceive me. And it was not a worry that should have even crossed my mind. What I was told when I arrived is that there have been so many conflicts since that conflict that, you know, there doesn't seem to be almost any resentment toward Americans. In fact, people were really excited to find out I was American because we export, you know, a lot of our culture, Hollywood anyway. And so when people would find out I was American, they'd want to know if I'd been to LA or New York and if I'd ever met a famous person. You know, it wasn't really, there was no, the war was never mentioned. And yeah, I can't emphasize enough how warm and welcoming the Vietnamese people are. Every year, the school that I was working for, the school has multiple campuses around the city. And every Christmas, the kind of parent company will throw a big Christmas party for all of the teachers. And at one of these Christmas parties, a teacher that I had worked with briefly decided to come and chat me up. And that man eventually became my husband. We started dating in Vietnam. We moved in together in Vietnam, and we're both completely in love with it and loving our lives there. But as I mentioned, it's just not a place to save money. And so we decided we really loved Vietnam. We'd love to stay there, but we need to think about our future. Let's go away somewhere where we can make more money, put some savings together, and maybe invest that into a business or a property. So we reluctantly took jobs in Dubai. Not a place that was on either of our radars as a place to visit or live, but a place that pays teachers very well. And, you know, now we were going to be in the Middle East, where we could now explore a new area of the world on our vacations. So, you know, I've always wanted to go to Lebanon. I worked at a Lebanese restaurant in Chicago for a bit, and the owners were from Lebanon and always spoke really beautifully about the country. And so I was excited about that, but the job was difficult. Anybody who's taught in the public school system in the UAE will tell you it's not an easy job. And so we very much cherished our vacation time. And one of the best things about the job is you get paid summers. So every summer, as soon as school would break up, we'd get on a plane somewhere and go explore. It was, you know, the first time in a long time we'd really had money to do big trips. You know, in Vietnam, we were able to pop to Cambodia on a $12 bus, you know, or pop to Thailand on a $50 airplane. But now we had a little bit of money where we could see more places further away. So in 2017, we did a big tour of South America, and then in 2018, we decided to do Europe. And we decided to do a road trip. So the way we organized that is we flew into London, and then we had booked a flight back to the UAE from Kiev, Ukraine. And the plan was, let's find a car to buy, because we worked out it'd be cheaper than the Eurail, and kind of just do a little tour. We're not going to plan it. We'll figure out what we want to do when we get there, you know. And then having a car also gave us more flexibility with that, where the Eurail, you're kind of going capital city to capital city. Or having a car, we were able to go a little bit more off the beaten path. So we didn't plan it. We just we would wake up every day and kind of think, oh, you know, where do you want to go today? And we had a few places we had to be, right? I had a friend meeting me in Switzerland. We were visiting family friends in Germany. We were going to visit his cousins in Poland, but most of the trip was left up to us, and we could kind of do what we wanted as we wanted. Actually, originally we had bought a 750-pound MG TF convertible. We were staying with some friends in the south of England, saw a Facebook listing, went and saw the car and bought it. It was so cool. You know, driving with the top down, it was beautiful. But 3 days into the trip, the car blew up. We lost our only form of transportation, which was a massive, you know, kick to the vacation wallet. So we ended up we wanted to see some friends who were staying up in Sheffield. So from the place where our car blew up, we got on the train up to Sheffield, regrouped. And then in Sheffield, we found a listing for a 250 pound Nissan Micra. It was old, but it was bulletproof. It had no power windows, no power steering, no radio, but that thing, it's still going. It's still going today, I know. So we bought it and we started driving. So we went from Sheffield down through England, down through France. We popped to Barcelona, and then we made our way to Italy. And our first stop in Italy was Sanremo, which is very close to the French border. I had really wanted to go to the Cinque Terre because I had never been there before. So as soon as we got to Sanremo, we kind of opened booking.com. This was a very spontaneous trip. We didn't plan anything in advance. But when I opened Booking, I saw, we're trying to book in one of the most popular tourist destinations in Italy in the height of summer, peak season. There was nothing available, nothing in our budget anyway. So we had to kind of change tack and figure out something different. So Paul Googled off the beaten path Italy and ended up finding a blog about this lake called Lago di Iseo and an island in the middle of the lake called Montisola. He showed me the pictures. I was sold. It was a 4-hour drive. The next morning, we got in the Nissan Micra and started driving to this lake. And the way, when you're driving, you're on kind of just like a standard highway, and you go through this tunnel, and then when you come out of the tunnel, the view is indescribable. It is so completely breathtaking. It's this gorgeous glacial lake, with coming out of it are the pre-Alps, and then you can see the Alps in the distance, and then there's this beautiful little island in the middle of the lake, and all these little villages with the homes with terracotta roofs dotted around. It just, our first thought was, how is this place not famous? How is this off the beaten path? Like, why don't more people know about this place? But just absolutely, our jaws were on the floor, our eyes were wide open. We dropped the car off because the island is car-free. We took the ferry, and when we got on the island, we said, okay, I know we've scheduled 2 days to be here, but we already know we want to stay longer. So we had to go to Switzerland to meet a friend, but we could extend it for 5 days. So we ended up spending 5 days on the island. We stayed in the capital, Siviano, on the island. We would go to this restaurant, La Torre, every day. And after the restaurant, we would go to this little bar and have limoncello. It was just so dreamy. We were just it was like being in heaven. We just really loved it. My husband, Paul, is the most social, the most gregarious person you will ever meet. And so when he spotted a group of, 20-somethings at this bar, he said, oh, I'm gonna go ask him, what there is to do around here besides, going to this restaurant and going to this bar. So he approached them and was like, hey guys, are you from here? Is there anything fun to do around here? And they said, well, actually, we came here by boat for dinner, but we're going to a party on the mainland. Do you want to come? And we said yes, and we got in their boat and had a great night and made some really beautiful friendships and ended up hanging out with them the whole week. And which of course makes you fall even more in love with the place when you're welcomed by local people and you're building connections. And we ended up doing what we always do, which is, I'm sure a lot of people do this, where you're on vacation in somewhere beautiful, somewhere you love, and you just think, oh, what would it cost for an apartment here? Not that we could ever afford it, we're teachers, but you just do it as like a little fantasy. At the time, we were actually saving for a down payment for a house in Chicago, but it was proving really difficult because I was earning foreign earned income and I didn't get the tax statements from the US government kind of proving my income. Lenders were very hesitant to work with me. So we'd been through, I think, maybe 3 rounds of rejections from mortgage lenders in the States. And when we opened the apps here, the real estate apps, to see, what would it cost to buy a little place here, we kind of realized, oh, we could buy outright in cash a little fixer-upper here with the money we have saved for our down payment. The frustration and the stress of the mortgage process in the States, coupled with just being totally, totally in love with this new place, we made the decision, yes, that's what we want to do. We viewed a couple of properties on that first trip. Neither one was a good fit. One was a pig shed, which had potential, but it was too small. The footprint, I think, was maybe 35 square meters. So it would have been, a micro home. and it was in a village where the bus only came once a day. So it was not the best fit. The other one was big and beautiful, but also had a very big roof that needed replacing, which was gonna be too much money. So we kept our eye on the market. The next time we came back the following summer and kept our, all the while keeping our eyes on property listings. And the second to last day before we were set to fly back to Dubai, I saw a listing on, I think it was Idealista, which is like just a property website here. We saw it just had one photo of the outside of the house and it said 25,000 euros. And which, if you're looking at property listings, you think this isn't real. This is a bait property. This is something some real estate agent put on the site so that people will call him and then he has new leads, right? But, you don't know if you don't try. So we tried to call, the estate agent didn't pick up, but our local friend said, well, I know where that village is. Why don't we drive over there? So we drove over to the village, started walking around. The address was not in the listing, just the photo of the house. So we're walking around, we can't find it. Our friend stops someone in the street and says, hey, do you know where this house is? And shows him the picture. He's like, oh yeah, it's just up here. So we walked up and, we didn't have keys, we couldn't see the inside of the house, but even just from the outside, we just immediately fell in love and could see ourselves here. I always describe it as like one of those houses you draw when you're a kid. Like every kid draws the same house with like the kind of square body and then the pitched roof, the door in the middle, and the two windows upstairs. Like that's the house. And it's just so cute and so perfect. And the neighbor kind of confirmed, yes, this is for sale, but he didn't have many details other than that. So I thought, okay, well, it's not a bait property. It's for real. And eventually the estate agent got back to us, but told us, unfortunately, another offer had been accepted already, which was kind of heartbreaking because we'd already kind of planned our life in this house. But luckily, was it the following day maybe? It was the day we were meant to leave. In the morning, we got a call from the estate agent and he said, the buyer's backed out. Do you want to view it? We said, yes. We went that morning straight to the house. The inside was even better than the outside. It was just so cute, so perfect. A cute little 2-bedroom house. It's, a stone's throw from the lake. It's a 30-second walk to a train station. It's everything. It's everything we wanted. And so, he kind of told us, well, I know that the owner had accepted an offer of $23K. Do you want to put in an offer of $23K? We said yes, it was accepted. On the way to the airport, we stopped at the estate agent's office and put in a good faith deposit of 500 euros. The owner actually wasn't ready to sell in that moment because what we were told is that in Italy, if you inherit property and then you sell it right away, you get taxed in a higher tax bracket. But if you hold on to it for, I think it was 5 years, I might be wrong about that, and then sell it, then you pay less taxes. So he said he was coming out of this period of higher taxes in April. So we put in our deposit in July, and with the kind of understanding that we would complete post-April. COVID hit, we couldn't fly back, but we did everything distance and it ended up working out. We closed on the house in the summer of 2020. We knew when we saw the house that it needed a new roof. And we knew that it needed a new floor in the upstairs because when we were viewing the house and we were walking in the bedrooms upstairs, you can kind of feel the floor bouncing underneath every step. It didn't feel super safe. So we knew it needed at least those two things, but we'd find out later it needed a lot more than that. Luckily, Paul's very handy. He has a lot of experience with renovation and DIY, so we definitely naively thought, well, if there's more problems, like Paul can take care of it. But he has. So our budget is still totally depleted. So we're just kind of doing what we can month by month. This is a race against time and more specifically a race against winter because if we can't get the house habitable before the winter sets in, we're gonna have to stay in my sister-in-law's apartment, which has no heating and just an outhouse bathroom. If you'd like to help support us reach that goal, please follow us here on YouTube, or you can also follow us over on Patreon where we offer behind the scenes footage and early release videos. And if you're thinking about doing something similar, we can help. Over on Patreon, we publish every month a newsletter of curated properties for sale in Italy for under 100,000 euros. You can find the link in the description. And if you haven't watched it already, go ahead and check out this video of our house tour and you can check out our progress. Bye, and see you next time.